Thank you so much, Dr. Finkler and Christina, for agreeing to this conversation today in honor of International Holocaust Remembrance Day. We feel very honored to be able to speak with you both today. Today, we'd like to talk about your book project, My Dearest Beloved Child, and in Swedish, Mitt, käraste, gyllene, which was just published. This book was written by you, Christina, and it tells the story about how you, Dr. Finkler, as a little girl, how you survived the horrors of the Holocaust, how you came to Sweden with the white boats of the Red Cross, how you spent a year here in Sweden where you were reunited with your mother, and how you then emigrated to the United States together. The book is aimed at children ages 9 through 12 years old, but it's really a book for everyone. It's a powerful testimony, and it's written in a way that is straightforward and accessible for all. It's important to talk about the Holocaust, and it's a rare opportunity to be able to talk about the Holocaust with a witness who lived through it and who was able to tell us firsthand how it was. So thank you both very much again for this opportunity. And Christina, to start us off, can you read a short excerpt from your book? Thank you.
Jag ligger gömd i droskan tillsammans med min morbror Binim. Han är min mammas yngre halvbror. Det är han som har ordnat allt. Han som har betalat både kusken och hon som vi hoppas väntar på andra sidan muren. Jag tycker mycket om Binim, eller Bineman som vi kallar honom. Hästens hovar slår mot gatan. Jag känner doften av häst. Det luktar gott. Jag känner också Binim helt nära mig. Hans sträva rock mot min kind. Hans välbekanta doft. Han håller min hand i sin. Jag är 7 år gammal och ska smugglas ut ur Warszawas getto.
Dr. Finkler, when World War II started, you were just 4 years old at the time. Can you tell us a little bit about your family and your life at that time?
I had a glorious childhood. When the war started, I still was surrounded by this wonderful family that I mourn to this day. I was the only child, and everybody just adored me. And had the war not taken place, then I would not be a professor, and I would not have written 5 books, but I would have had the most loving family that I didn't have.
In the ghetto in Piotrków Trybunalski, you were separated from both of your parents. Can you tell us what happened?
The Germans began to grab people for labor. They had a list of people they wanted to take to labor camps. And they couldn't find this one woman, but they found my mother. So what they did was they captured my mother and put her on a truck to go and to work in a slave labor camp. All of a sudden, my father and I find that my mother is not here, this one day. And we started running around and trying to find where she was. And it turned out we found her, that she was ready to be taken on this truck. She was standing there and saying to me, come with me. So because I should just go with her. And my father, who was holding my hand, said, no, stay with me. And I'm standing there and I cannot make up my mind. What should I do? And I was standing there and crying, and I can still hear that cry to this day, that I couldn't decide what to do. And so what happened was they decided for me, because they just grabbed my mother, and I'm standing there with my father and my mother goes off. So I just couldn't decide, do I want to be with my father or with my mother? It was extraordinarily painful to do that. On the way back, my father got beaten by the Germans, and he started with blood and all that. And then shortly afterwards, this person who was looking for me found me and says, would you come with me? And I had this feeling there's something wrong. And I come, and my father is now, and then he died in my hands. I was left by myself.
Dr. Finkler, you were alone in 2 concentration camps, in Ravensbrück and Bergen-Belsen. Would you be able to share some recollections from that time?
And in Germany, I was first taken to Ravensbrück. I am being administered to, they take your name and so on. It was a French woman, which I still remember to this day. So she asked me, how old are you? Now I'm 8 years old, right? I said, I'm 16. And what gave me the idea that I'm 16? I haven't got the slightest idea. Who told me that? Nobody. I said, I'm 16. Well, this French woman, I can just see her say, yeah, you're 16, go. And she just saved my life. How did it all happen that I survived? And I can't even tell you how that happened. They shaved my head off completely. Mind you, I didn't cut my hair till I was about 40 or 45. And then they want to take me to a shower. I wouldn't go. There's no way I would go. Now, why didn't they shoot me? I have no idea. So in Ravensbrück, I was put to peeling potatoes. The Russians started coming. So the Germans began moving their population. By this time, they moved us to Bergen-Belsen, which was a death camp. That is a starvation camp. They waited for you to die. Why they didn't shoot us at the time, what I remember hearing, which the things that were, is that they ran out of ammunition. Therefore, they couldn't shoot us. But the death camp was that kind of where they didn't give you anything to eat, and they just waited for you to die. I was by that time one of the youngest in Bergen-Belsen. There was one young little girl next to me, Renatka, and she was right next to me. She was a year younger, and I'm talking to her. She's dead. And at the time I was the liberation, I could barely walk. I got to Sweden. I and a few other children were taken, who were very, very sick, were taken to Fiskeboda. Fiskeboda had this beautiful sanatorium, and that was heaven on this earth. Rest were taken directly to Berkshire. Berkshire, life was incredibly wonderful. And that's what they came. They used to come and sing Santa Lucia for us. And when my mother came, we were waiting for a boat to go take us to the United States. So the Rabbi Jacobson, he put us in Saltsjöbaden, and it was there that my mother and I exchanged what happened to us. But after that, we never talked about that because we were separated for 4 years. I did not know for the whole time where my mother was, and my mother didn't know where I was. We lived in Brooklyn where my grandfather was.
Dr. Finkler, you didn't start school until you were 11 years old. Still, you ended up with a very successful career. What do you think gave you that strength to excel?
My mother was really my example. She was an extraordinary woman. She was extraordinarily educated.
On International Holocaust Remembrance Day, what message would you like to send to children and young adults growing up today?
Just, you never stand by when you see evil. With children, you can teach anything. And so if you teach them what is evil, and this evil must never be repeated, they will remember it when they're 20 years old.
Thank you both again for taking the time to speak with me today. And Dr. Finkler, thank you especially for bearing witness and sharing your story so that young people can understand the horrors of the Holocaust and never let such a crime against humanity happen again.